everybody. Welcome to another episode of Connect with KB. I am so happy to have you tuning in. As always, appreciate your support. We are talking about business and education, leadership, and all the wonderful things that connect us to each other. My guest today is directing advocacy and legislative priorities for the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. She's entrenched in serious tax issues, candidate endorsements, and has taken on a new role in leading the Michigan ATHENA programming that highlights ways to promote and enhance issues for women that they face in the workplace. I want to welcome to the podcast my good friend, Leah Robinson. Leah, so glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, KB. I'm so excited to finally see your setup. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you being here. And we've been talking about this for quite some time. And you've been a big supporter of Connect with KB and all the other chamber-tarians that I've had on the program and members or staff members of the Michigan Chamber. So finally, I get to have Leah Robinson on. And I want you to tell the listeners the Leah Robinson story.
I feel like it's a long story, even though I've only been here on this earth for 27 years at this point. So, born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee for 20 years. I went to the University of Tennessee for 2 years, transferred to Virginia Tech to study national security and nuclear strategy. And then I was brought to Michigan, worked in the dance field for a while, actually interned in state politics, never wanted to be in this realm at all whatsoever, wanted to do national security strategy, but ended up falling in love with state politics and also the community that's here in Lansing and the political realm in Michigan overall. People here are amazing.
Did you come to Michigan to go to school?
No. When I graduated my undergrad, I was still working on my master's, but I had finished all my classes for my master's. So all I had to do was write my thesis, essentially. I might have taken a few classes when I got here online, but just had to write my thesis. But I came and coached the University of Michigan dance team as an assistant coach. And then I had a high school team, Dexter High School, and taught at a studio in Ann Arbor called Dancer's Edge. Well, so that was is that the first job you had? Yes. So as soon as I graduated college, all I wanted to do was dance. That is my entire life. I started when I was 12 maybe, which is kind of late in dance world. It's kind of late. But I took those years to really get going, and about 14 years in total in the dance realm. And I even did some crossover when I first started in state politics. I was driving from where I lived in Northville to Lansing to do my internship in the House Republican Policy Office, and then driving back to Ann Arbor to coach.
How did you choose nuclear strategy? What does that mean, and what would that entail if you were going to go down that road?
Right, for sure. That's a great question. But I feel like in college, you're trying out so many different things. And I went in pre-law. Like, I was constitutional law. It's like, yes, I want to study law. What I wanted to study, no clue. But I just wanted to have a sense of security, I think. And I was in the pre-law honor society. So I went to a pre-law meeting. And I just sat there in one of those classes. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this right now. And I fell in love with the National Security Strategy program that they had at Virginia Tech. They did not have one at University of Tennessee at the time. So I just fell in love with it. And I liked the concept of power and how that interacted with nuclear weapons. So I wouldn't say nuclear weapons, the science behind them, or the physics or anything like that, but the strategy of power in terms of international relations and how that played in the role of states' security elements.
Well, then you obviously did that, had an opportunity to be in Michigan, intern. You've had a couple of different opportunities now out in D.C., but now back here in Michigan as of last year, correct? And
yes.
Working at the Michigan Chamber as their tax policy guru, as I like to say. What does that really mean? Like, what do you do? Talk about your role. Because as you are so good at it, but it's complex.
Oh, for sure. It's super complex. I will say with the chamber, we have policy committees. So since I handle tax policy mainly, I do other things like workforce development, education, cannabis, a wide range of stuff. But we have a tax policy committee. A lot of times that's me reporting to the committee, hey, this is coming up in the legislature, or the governor wants to do XYZ, or the speaker wants to do XYZ, whatever it is. I let them know. And we have a conversation about what that really means for business. And then if they're supportive of it, let's push it, let's drive it. And if they think it's going to deteriorate maybe the tax climate or the business tax climate, it's definitely a conversation with those key legislative stakeholders.
So really the membership is driving the action of what you're doing. It's not just a leadership team at the Michigan Chamber deciding what's best for Michigan, but really interacting and engaging with the membership to make sure that they're on that page. How often does your tax policy committee meet, or how often do you connect with them?
It really depends on what's going on. So we typically have about 3 to 4 in person or virtual. I think it's kind of varied after COVID. We've been doing a lot more virtual meetings, but sometimes I might not need to contact my entire tax policy committee because I know it's only going to impact my insurance folks that are on my committee, or specifically tax preparers or accountants or something to that effect. When I contact the entire membership, it's probably like every 2 months, but I'm in constant contact with those subgroups based off their industry.
How many people do you have on the tax policy committee?
I think 236.
Really?
But my committee is not nearly as large as Michael Limos, who is our director of energy and environment. He has probably like 285.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suspect that that's pretty hard to get them all in a room, to get them all all together. But, that's pretty impressive about the amount of people who are paying attention and want to be engaged with the Michigan Chamber on issues and weigh in with their expertise, too, and how it impacts their companies.
Absolutely.
The primary election was yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the Chamber had a whole list of endorsements, both Republicans and Democrats.
Absolutely.
How did last night fare for the membership, for the team, for what you guys worked on in regards to what you'd want to see in November when we have the general?
So I think about 83% of the individuals we endorsed from the congressional level all the way down to state house, state senate, I think 83% made their way. Of course, there are a few elections that are still rolling out. We're waiting to see how they play out, but about 83%. But like you said, Democrat, Republican, if you're interested in solving business issues, we want to work with you. We want to help you. Let's have a conversation. We want pragmatic answers, and we want pragmatic policy solutions.
Well, I think that sometimes that would surprise people that the Michigan Chamber has a reputation for being conservative. But I think that if people really had an opportunity to get in and realize that it's exactly what you just said about making sure that there is good, sound policy that is good for everybody in Michigan, and that you do engage with a lot of Democrats, and you have a lot of Democrats who are very high on the Michigan Chamber as well. And so I think that that's kind of a misnomer sometimes, that there isn't a lot of work across the aisle, because there is.
I completely agree. I was going to mention that because I've only been with the Chamber about 11 months now. So it's been a learning experience realizing that they really do talk with everyone across the aisle. They just want the best for their members. And I think that's super honorable.
Well, I do too. And the Michigan Chamber is willing to really step into new spaces of economic opportunity. Cannabis, as you know, is here both recreationally as well as medically. And so how do you work that with really starting to push yourselves a little bit into new spaces? And are you happy to be a part of that as you kind of start to grow? And are there opportunities that there might be committees that are designed around that as well?
Oh, absolutely. We are constantly in contact with our membership. Where are they going? What are they looking for down the road? How do we mirror our organization to reflect the growth in our membership and the businesses that make that up? So we're always open to structuring committees or different subgroups maybe to make sure that those interests are pursued legislatively, if that happens. So we're beholden to the membership for sure.
Do you find that you two are, even though you kind of have an opportunity to do mostly legislative and advocacy, how about the membership and you being attracted to new members in business and really somewhat being a membership person as well? I think everybody at the Chamber really does that. It's very helpful in terms of cultivating new membership. But has this experience beyond just the legislative been an eye-opener for you about how important business is in Michigan?
Absolutely, 100%. So I'm not from Michigan, right? So watching how businesses have interacted and how they are essentially propelled by their local communities in various states that I've lived in is something that I'm very interested in here, because they really do make up our state. People want to work here, or people want to live here, or people want to play here based off what their community provides. And businesses have a lot of not necessarily input, but they have a lot of buy-in to making sure that that community upholds their values and upholds the values of the people that make up, and then attracts potential employees as well.
Well, I just had an opportunity to have a conversation with Romel Vega, and he has brought his sustainable outdoor footwear company, Holo, to Grand Rapids from Portland, Oregon. And one of the reasons he did that was that he said that, one, West Michigan has so much recreational opportunity. Mm-hmm. Two, there's so much talent in people who are in the design space that he's hoping to bring onto his team. But three, the business climate in Michigan and how proactive everyone is in regards to building business. And so a little plug for you, Leah, if you want to connect with Romel, I will be happy to do that for you and bring them on as a Michigan Chamber member.
You're the best, KB.
But I like that. I love these stories. That was really cultivated, I think, by the right place in MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And they really do a really nice job of this outreach to bring people to Michigan. And it's exactly what you said. There's so much opportunity here for people. And for me to be able to have the conversation with him about his small business, which really isn't that small anymore,
right?
And to see the growth is really neat. And it's neat to have you guys be able to touch so many businesses in Michigan. I mean, over 5,000 members of the Chamber. I know that you're growing that every day. And you guys did just a championship job during the pandemic to really support people. I mean, I've said it a million times, there was no better time to be a member of the Chamber than during the pandemic, and all the resources and opportunity for people to keep their businesses afloat. Let's talk a little bit about, and you hit it on it already, about being a dance coach. How has that helped you with your leadership style? And we haven't talked about this yet, and we should let the listeners know that you've also taken on the leadership programming at the Michigan Chamber, specifically working with Michigan ATHENA and women in the workplace. How do you think that experience has helped you in regards to who you want to be and how you direct things now?
I love this question, and I've been thinking about this a lot because my time at University of Michigan, I think, nuanced my leadership approach. I think my leadership journey began in the 5th grade when I did not make my first dance team. And I really thought I was going to make it. And my parents thought it too. Of course, my parents thought that, right?
Of course they
Parents think their child is incredible no matter what. But my dad just told me, like, Leah, you weren't good enough. And I loved that. And at the time, I was like, okay, so I have to be better. I have to try more. And so I did, and I came back the next year, and I did make it, which, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I should have, because I was still not very good, but we'll take it, we'll run with it. But then around sophomore year of high school, I realized that I was growing up in a sport that I'm constantly comparing myself to the person next to me. I mean, you stand in front of a mirror for hours trying to look like the person next to you in terms of dance team. You want to be in sync. You want to have everything to a T, perfect. And then one day my coach put me on the back row for a really long turn sequence, even though I was in the front for like the first 3 months. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, everyone else is just so much better than me. And then I realized, like, I'm not holding my own. Like, she moved me because I could not hang. And so I worked on it. And this is like a small microcosm of everything dance related, but I worked on it and I realized the girl next to me, like Kelsey is always going to be able to turn. Sarah's always going to be able to do extension turns. Like they're always going to have their strengths. And at the end of the day, that makes our team better. But I'm not competing with them because we're moving towards the same goal. I'm competing with who I was yesterday and what my skills were yesterday, a week ago, a year ago, whatever that may be, and where I want to go in the future with my own talent. Because I serve them and they serve me in our team goal. And I think that really resonated with me, and it took a lot of pressure off me because I wasn't competing or pitting someone against me anymore. And I just wanted to be the best version of myself, which I think allowed me to see the differences in people, and those differences in skill, in this case, differences in skill made the entire team better. And so when I got to Michigan, I think my leadership style changed because I was very nitpicky. I wanted everything to be perfect. But then there was a point where I'm not dancing on the floor anymore. I'm coaching. They're in the dance. They know their bodies. I have to trust them. I have to give them the direction and trust that they can do what's best for the team. And I think that plays really well into future potential leadership opportunities that I may have, because you can't micromanage people. They have to live their own lives. They have their own experiences and perspectives. And so I'm super honored to have taken this Michigan ATHENA role from you, KB, because you left, to pursue incredible opportunities, and you've left it in such an incredible spot. And I'm very thankful for that.
Well, I could not be prouder of you. You know that. We had a great opportunity to work together. I know that this program has been very successful, and it's going to go from good to great under your leadership. Why don't we give a little plug to the program that you're going to have here that's coming up, I think, at the end of August, as well as additional event in October. Talk a little bit about that and what you're presenting to women right now and the issues that are important to them. And this one's going to be about mentorship, correct?
Yes. So August 30th. It's about mentorship. It's a virtual event from 9 to 10 a.m. We have Carol Kane as our moderator, who's incredible. She hosts Michigan Matters, if you're interested in looking that up. She's, insanely talented. And then we have Kelsey Dame. She's an associate attorney from Warner Norcross and Judd. We have Nicole Noel-Williams, who is CEO of Lansing Regional Airport. And then we have Tracy Winston, who just took over the Director of Government Operations for Waste Management. I think she has a few states, so it's not just Michigan, which is awesome. But we're just really going to be having a conversation of, why does mentorship matter? What has it done for people? How can you even mentor other people in your career, in your role? Because if you think about it, how many times have you turned to someone and that you trust and have said, what do you think I should do? What's my next step? Especially for me, I was super new in the political realm. I've only been doing this for a few years. And when I wanted to make a big move, I called my mentor, Brian Mills, and I said, is this a reasonable next step? Am I being crazy right now, leaving my job in DC to come back to Michigan? He was like, no, this makes absolute sense for you. This is where you thrive. And I was like, okay. And that day, I made the move. So we really want to provide those opportunities to create a network through the Michigan ATHENA attendees, but also provide them a space where they can just learn and figure out what works best for them, whether that's personal or professional.
Well, I noticed that, on these programs, which are all virtual right now, and I suspect they'll probably go back to being in person at some point, but it really is a space for those the panelists, they're so vulnerable too, which is really admirable. And they talk about, the challenges that they had and how they wish they probably had a mentor sooner, and their role now as they get into their advanced careers about being a mentor and how important that is to them. I like the dialogue in the chat box. I think that's one of the funnest things about the program is that, even though you're not in person, you can really start to build your network with other people who are asking the same type of questions you you are that are interested in, one, how do they find a mentor, or what are those takeaways and questions that they want to ask people? I was just talking to my friend Becky Beckler the other day, and we were talking about how important this is to us now in our career, and that, a lot of people look to us for guidance and advice, and that, we can maybe have people not go through the pitfalls that maybe we did. One of the things we talked about is making moves sooner, having an opportunity to really kind of push yourself a little bit. I know that's one of the things we've talked about through Michigan Athena too, about not being afraid and being bold and trying something, because, it generally is going to work out. We're always afraid of the no, but, it's a 50-50 that, no is going to come. And so that we need young women to be bold and be risk takers and to try a little bit more. I really admire the fact that you as a young professional are taking this on. I think it's going to grow immensely, the Michigan Athena program under your watch now. And so I'm excited to participate in August. What's the program in October? I can't remember the
Work-life balance.
Oh, yeah. That's
Which
another,
is important.
Yes, that is another good one. And there's a lot of discussion about that, too. So if people are interested in getting registered for those programs, it is a free event, and you can get connected at www.michigandchamber.com.
Yes.
Got it. Yep. Great. So feel free to register. Registration is open. Aspirations to do other things.
KB, I want to do everything.
You do? I love it.
Really do want to do everything.
I love it.
Whether that's go to law school, whether that is maybe doing my own podcast one day. I want to do everything.
I think
which
you could.
Is a little bit of a struggle, because when you want to do everything, it's hard to really follow through. You know what I mean? So I guess I'm just going to have to wait and see what's next. But definitely the next step is law school.
Well, you know what? I think that's awesome. I think you'll be a great student. I think that you'll be a great attorney someday. I think you have so much potential to do so many things. You and I have talked about it a million times. And, one of those things that really bodes well for you is your positivity. You're happy.
Thanks,
life is good. You want to push yourself. I loved that whole dialogue about your experience in 5th grade. I'm always trying to push people to write books. So I think that you could write one about what I learned in 5th grade. And I
will also say that I did not make the dance team in 5th grade, but I also didn't make a million dance teams. It was not just one no, and then I was good to go. I had countless no's. And I think that's something important that people kind of let get in their way right now.
I think, countless no's are okay, because sometimes it's all about timing.
Absolutely.
And, some of those people from last night that did not win, I hope will jump into it again. And I know that that's very difficult, but sometimes it's just the timing and what you learn from it that pushes you to be better.
Absolutely.
And to put yourself in a position to win next time. And I'm so glad that you didn't give up dance, because look how much it's changed you.
Oh, yeah.
Your leadership style and, that whole not micromanaging people and giving them space to be themselves and to learn from them and to guide them. And I really think that that's what leadership is all about. It is, you empowering people to bring out the best in themselves. And some leaders are not like that. They want to control everything, and it's a very, very difficult thing. So I really admire that in you, and I can see so much for you going forward, although I think sometimes you can't see it for yourself. But I like that you want everything.
I do want everything.
I think that's great. As we kind of wrap up here, tell me, what are some of the greatest lessons outside of that? What have you learned that really kind of defines who you are and the professional that you are?
I would say resiliency. I mean, all those no's, all those ups and downs, all those I was turned down from multiple teams, so I'm getting up at 4 a.m., going to the studio, getting what I need to done before I go to school. It's resiliency, 100%. And I think Brian actually encapsulated this tenacity, not being afraid to jump in. Even if you don't know something, you're going to learn by experience, hands down. So resiliency and tenacity are the things that I've learned the most.
Thank goodness for Brian Mills.
Agreed. He's the best.
Absolutely. And you know what? That is, I appreciate that. I appreciate that women have women mentors. I appreciate that women have men mentors, and that, we can be supportive of each other, and you just never know what kind of impact you're going to have on somebody. So you're making a difference every day. I appreciate you. You're welcome to come on the podcast anytime you want. So we'll do this again in another year, and we'll see where Leah Robinson is, okay?
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My guest today, Leah Robinson, Director of Legislative Affairs and Leadership Programming for the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. I also want to thank my supporting sponsors, Downing Industries, Governmental Consultant Services, AF Group, Public Affairs Associates, and Mercantile Bank. You can listen to all my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristin Belter.